Can I ask you something? Have you ever met someone who made you question everything about yourself? Not because they openly criticized you, but because no matter what you did, it never seemed to be enough. You replied faster. You apologized first. You became more understanding. You ignored your own needs. You loved them harder. Yet somehow you still felt like you were falling short. And maybe that's why this conversation matters. Because today I don't want to talk about why they couldn't love you. I want to talk about why you kept believing that if you changed one more thing about yourself, they finally would. I think one of the greatest tragedies in life is not rejection, it's forgetting yourself while trying to avoid it. Somewhere along the way, many of us stopped asking, am I happy here? And started asking, am I enough for them? Those two questions may sound similar, but they create completely different lives. One protects your peace, the other slowly steals it. The truth is, most of us didn't learn this in adulthood. We learned it much earlier, as children. Maybe you were praised only when you performed well. Maybe love felt conditional. Maybe peace depended on pleasing everyone around you. Maybe being the good child became your identity. So you grew up believing something dangerous, that love is something you earn and not something you receive. And when you believe love has to be earned, you never stop working for it. That's why you overthink text messages. That's why you replay conversations. That's why you blame yourself when someone pulls away. That's why rejection feels like proof that you weren't enough. Because your mind isn't just reacting to one person, it is reacting to years of conditioning. Here's something that changed the way I look at relationships. People who genuinely value you rarely make you question your value. Listen to that again. Healthy love feels surprisingly calm. It isn't confusing. It doesn't leave you constantly wondering where you stand. It doesn't ask you to sacrifice your dignity just to feel chosen. If someone only appreciates you when you're useful, that's not acceptance, it's convenience. Many of us become addicted to potential. We don't love who someone is, we love who they might become. We keep saying they will change, they are going through something. They didn't mean it. If I'm patient enough, if I love harder, if I understand better, maybe then everything will be okay. But remember, love isn't building on imagination, it's built on reality. And reality just asks one simple question: how do they treat you today? Not who they were, not who they could become. Today, sometimes we spend years trying to convince someone to see our worth. But here's what I've realized: your worth doesn't increase because someone recognizes it, it doesn't decrease because someone ignores it. A diamond doesn't become a stone because someone fails to recognize its value. It remains a diamond. There is another reason we stay: hope. Hope can be beautiful, but hope can also become a prison, especially when you're hoping someone will become the person they have repeatedly shown they are not. Hope keeps saying, just one more chance, just one more conversation, maybe just one more apology, until years pass and you're still waiting. Can I tell you something difficult? Sometimes closure isn't accepting that they didn't love you. Sometimes closure is accepting that you kept abandoning yourself while waiting for them to. And that hurts. But it is an incredibly freeing thought. Because if you were the one abandoning yourself, you can also be the one who comes back. One of the biggest shifts in healing happens when you stop asking, why wasn't I enough? And start asking, why did I believe I had to be? That's a completely different conversation. Because maybe you weren't trying to become lovable, maybe you have always been lovable. You were simply standing in front of people who couldn't recognize it. We often mistake being chosen for being valued. Remember, they are not the same thing. Someone can choose you because you are convenient. Someone can choose you because you're available. Someone can choose you because they are lonely. But being valued means being respected, being heard, being considered, being emotionally safe, and never confuse attention with love. Psychologists often talk about something called repetition. We consciously recreate familiar emotional environments. If chaos feels familiar, calm feels boring. If inconsistency feels familiar, stability feels suspicious. That's why healing sometimes feels uncomfortable. Not because it's wrong, because it's unfamiliar. Your nervous system has spent years preparing for disappointment. Peace almost feels unsafe until one day it becomes home. Spirituality teaches something similar. The Bhagavad Gita reminds us that attachment creates suffering, not love, attachment. Attachment says, I need you to complete me. Love says, I appreciate you, but I don't abandon myself to keep you. And there is a profound difference. Maybe you have spent years trying to fit into places that were never yours to build. Try to explain yourself, trying to shrink yourself, trying to become easier to love. But the people who truly belong in your life won't require a performance. They won't need a smaller version of you. They won't ask you to betray yourself just to belong. Here's something I want you to carry with you after today. Stop measuring your worth by how hard someone is willing to love you. Some people struggle to love themselves. How could they ever teach you your value? Don't hand your self esteem to someone who's still trying to find their own. Healing isn't becoming someone new, healing is remembering who you were before you started believing you had to earn love, before you apologized for existing, before you explained your boundaries, before you thought being chosen mattered more than choosing yourself. And maybe the next time you find yourself asking, what can I do so they won't leave? Just pause, take a deep breath, and ask a different question. If they leave, will I still have myself? Because that's a relationship that has to last your entire life, the one that you have with yourself. So today, I don't want you to chase approval. I want you to chase peace. I don't want you to become more acceptable. I want you to become more authentic. And I don't want you to spend another year trying to convince someone of your worth. Your job isn't to prove your value, your job is to recognize it first. Can I ask you something? Who would you become if you finally stopped trying to be enough for people who were never willing to see that you already were? I will leave you with that thought. Until next time, take care of your heart. Be gentle with yourself, and I will meet you again between coffee and conversation.